Okay, I'm going to talk through this Hyperglow filter that I built for Cavalry. I'm really proud of this one. This is a pretty in-depth glow effect with a lot of control to really art direct the feel that you're going for. And because it runs on the GPU, it's very responsive in real time to changing things. So you can really quickly kind of get the aesthetic that you're looking for, take it in some really interesting directions. So just to quickly kind of jump through some of the looks that you can get with it. You can see all of these guys are just quickly found by just playing with all these parameters. So I'm going to go through each one of these. Let's go to this guy. And we'll kind of start from scratch and just talk about what all these different controls do. So to begin with, I'm going to add this filter on, let's do it on the submesh here. So the filter and add Hyperglow. So not too impressive to begin with, but we'll get there. So starting at the top, we have our glow style. So normal, let me turn the intensity up just a little bit. Normal is exactly what you'd expect. It is just like a radiating glow from all directions. We have vertical, which is an up and down glow. Horizontal, left to right, kind of almost like a directional blur. Cross, which combines the two of those, and then star. And so if we're on something like any of these directional blurs, let's go to 100% view here. You can see it's like this very hard cutoff as it stretches upward. So we kind of have two controls right under this to deal with that. So we have diffusion, which will blend in the normal glow. So it starts to bring the kind of normal radiating glow in concert with the vertical or horizontal glow to kind of soften a little bit. And then there is a soften control, which will kind of blur it, which if we really quickly go to a normal glow and let's make it really big, you can see we have this very noticeable banding, and soften will blur that out and allow us to, as we go up, to get a much nicer glow effect without the banding. At the cost of performance, but not too much. So let's soften that a bit. Okay, threshold. Let's really quickly auto index these. So if we crank the intensity a little bit, so threshold is basically what glows luminance wise. So if we turn it way down, everything's going to glow. We turned it up, only the brightest things will glow. Pretty standard fare there. Let me go back to a normal color. Okay. And bring our intensity back down. Let's go back to like a vertical as well. There's also like a softness for the threshold, and that's just to kind of soft step your way into the threshold so it's not a noticeable cutoff. Radius, we've already played with this a little bit, but this is how far does the glow go. The fall off. So if we crank it, it's just going to be very close to home. And then as we go down to nothing, it's going to just stretch it kind of forever. Let's see here. Fall off. Cool. I was trying to see if I could get it to clip. So I just wanted to give a little side note here that there is this padding. It's on all of the effects that I build, but basically when you are computing the pixels of the effect, you want to be as contained as possible so you're not having to run pixels that you don't need through the GPU. But this can mean in certain instances, you will just see a hard cutoff of where the effect ends. And I try to do this pretty intelligently where it's mapped to the glow radius and has some math expression here to make sure that doesn't happen unnecessarily. But if you ever see the effect cutting off before you want it to, you can always turn off my own kind of parenting here, or even just add to this expression to give yourself a little bit more padding. And so that I bring that up with the fall off because sometimes if your fall off is crazy far, you will see it start to clip out and you'll want to adjust the padding. Intensity and exposure kind of work together to increase the exposure or the intensity of the effect, so you can kind of use them to to dial in exactly how bright you want it to be. It's very dependent on the brightness of the pixels. So what looks good on white might be really dull on a less bright set of pixels. Okay, so moving on into some of the more fun stuff. So I added this chroma shift effect, which will, as you see, as it radiates outward, it will start to bring in, like shift in the hue, even from a fully white starting point. And you can kind of go in either direction here to get two different looks. And then there's a saturation for this. So we can really crank this to get this cool like rainbow effect. Or if you don't want it to change that quickly, you can just go between kind of two colors here. You bring in a little bit of blue. And then as we go further and further, it starts to cycle more and more through the spectrum. So that's very cool. We also have a tint color. So we could start to bring in a tint for the glow itself. So if we go back to 0 on the chroma shift, just so we can see where we're starting, and we do a red glow or something like that, and we could bring the intensity up a little bit. Maybe we'll turn it to add. And then we can also, there we go, use the alpha on the tint color to blend that in. And then we can also bring in the chroma shift to just get some like really interesting breakup. And this is maybe like a little too saturated for my taste. But yeah, there's what it would look like in vertical. A little crazy in any of these other ones. But let's bring the intensity back down. Let's go back to vertical. It's kind of working with that and not the other ones. So yeah, I don't know. I find there's just like tons of stuff that you can do with the chroma shift. It usually looks best to me on white, but I'll leave that to you. Let's see here. Let's turn this down a little bit. I'm going to bring the fall off up a little. It looks like I skipped over the quality. So this is kind of what it sounds like. It increases the samples. This can be good for also helping with banding. In most instances, I find that like medium is good enough. But it is there in case you start to see like noticeable quality loss. You can up that. There's an opacity just for the glow overall. I don't use it too much, but it is there. And then kind of the other coup de grace in all this is that there is a film grain toggle. So if we get in real close here and we turn this up, you can see we can add a grain to the glow effect. And this just gives it, again, like a more cinematic, realistic feel. So there's a threshold with the grain. And what this does is if it's all the way up, it's going to apply it to basically all the pixels that it's affecting, which looks insane if it's at 0. Usually you want it at least 0.1, still visible. 0.2 tends to like not do anything but the actual glow. And then you can kind of bring it up further and further if you just want it in the like kind of centralmost points. But usually I leave it about 0.2. And I don't know. I think less is more with these guys. So I usually have it around like 4 or 5, which you might not even be able to notice here, like with the YouTube compression, but it just gives it this little bit of breakup, which makes it feel more like analog film kind of glow. Cool. And then the last section here is a shimmer. So let me turn off the oscillator and let's play with this a little bit. So it's kind of similar to the grain in that we have like a threshold of where it actually affects. And then it's basically just a noise that will break up the edges of the glow. So let me just crank it so we can really see what it's doing. So this looks not good. but you can see if I bring the amount to 1 and then the frequency pretty high, you almost get this like kind of flame effect. And then the speed is the speed at which the noise evolves. The noise is a 3D noise that's moving through Z space, so it will evolve the kind of breakup of these edges. And then you can see with the threshold, I can turn it way down, so it's really only affecting the outermost edges. And it's like, again, less is more. Looks insane if you do this, but if you really kind of just let it touch the edges, it gives it this, like, it kind of brings it to life in an interesting way. And then if we pull the frequency way down, and then maybe the threshold up a little bit, we start to get this kind of more natural looking shimmer. So this is definitely a place where you're just going to be kind of like playing with the values based on your composition, based on what you're adding this to get the look that you want. But all the controls are there to get some like really, really interesting effects. So, okay, so that's pretty much the gist of it. There's plenty you can do with it. I just scratched the surface. I'll probably do a follow-up video where I go through some specific looks, but I'm really, hyped to get this out to the community and see what can be done with it. There's tons of presets here that you can kind of play with as a starting point. Just know that if you apply it to something and it looks weird, it's probably, it's just very dependent on the pixels you're adding it to. So you might need to play with the intensity or the radius or a few of the controls to get it looking interesting. But yeah, hopefully it's a good starting spot. And again, if you want to find me on Discord, I have my handle up at the end, and I'm always on the Cavalry Discord or on the Scenery Discord. You can hit me up there. Always happy to answer questions and take feedback for feature requests and whatnot. So hope you enjoy. Thanks.